let's rank the top 15 wide receivers in the Big 12. For the last video, I did my SEC wide receivers and I included tight ends in that one. This time I decided not to do the tight ends in this one. I'll do them in a separate list, probably like a top 15 to 20 tight ends in the entire country. But yeah, I'm doing wide receivers for Big 12. I did them for the SEC. I'll have to do them for each conference in the G5, and I'll do all that. I've already done the running backs and the quarterbacks, so if that interests you at all, go check those out. But yeah, this is a really good list for wide receivers. Left some really good names out. I mean, Monterey Baldwin at Baylor was number 16, and he was number 14 or 15 before I remembered that a guy transferred in this conference. So I moved him out. Dorian Singer and Money Parks at Utah, I left them out. Luke Grimm and Daniel Skinner at Kansas. Dante Cephas at Kansas State, the former Penn State wide receiver, who I think will be really good for Avery Johnson and that offense, but had to leave them out for this video. Also, Texas Tech is getting a 5-star wide receiver in, what's his name? Micah Hudson. So he'll be fun to watch this season, but I couldn't include him on this list, obviously. But here's my top 15. So number 15 is Jimmy Horn at Colorado. His first year at Colorado was last year. Had a really good year, 600 yards, 6 touchdowns for Colorado. Before that, he was at USF, where he spent 2 seasons there. So he's going into his 4th season. And what I've noticed doing this ranking for the Big 12, all of these wide receivers are really experienced. You're talking 5th-year players, 6th-year players for one guy. But a lot of experienced guys, and that's why this wide receiver room will be so good in 2024. But yeah, Jimmy Horn had a really good game against TCU, probably his breakout game for most people. But it seems like everybody for Colorado had a good game against TCU. Kind of trailed off at the end of the season, but I think he'll be really good and really helpful for Shedeur in 2024. Number 14, also at Colorado, Will Sheppard, the new transfer from Vanderbilt. And this was the guy that kicked Monterey Baldwin off the list for me because I forgot that he had transferred to Colorado. He spent the last 4 seasons at Vanderbilt. He's going into his 5th season, and 3 seasons in a row where he had 600 plus yards. Last season he had over 700, I want to say. But that just goes to show you the quarterbacks he was playing with at Vanderbilt will be nothing like Shedeur Sanders at Colorado. So super excited for him to go to a new place and be kind of a household name in 2024. Number 13, Xavier Henderson at Cincinnati. Had a really good season last year for Cincinnati. Almost 800 yards, 3 touchdowns. He spent his first 3 years at Florida, then last year with Cincinnati. So he's going into his 5th year. And the Bearcats have a new quarterback this season. They have Brennan Sorsby, the former quarterback at Indiana. So Xavier Henderson will really help him out, and I'm sure Sorsby appreciates it. Number 12, Lawrence Arnold at Kansas, another 5th-year wide receiver. He spent all 4 seasons at Kansas, and he comes off a really good season last year, 800 yards, 6 touchdowns, had 700 yards in 2022 as well. Now he gets his main quarterback back in Jaylen Daniels, barring any injuries or anything, but Jason Bean, the quarterback from last year and the previous year for Kansas, was a really good deep ball threat. Jaylen Daniels is more of an accuracy guy and a deep ball threat. So Lawrence Arnold will be really happy that Jaylen Daniels is back. So future me is here. I just realized that a guy that I put in this ranking is now a Miami Hurricane. Sam Brown, who had a really good season for Houston last year, is now a Miami Hurricane, and I still included him in this list. So my ranking is all messed up right now. Sam Brown, I had him at number 11, so that means that all the guys I've talked about just shifted down a spot. Jimmy Horn at 15 is now 14. Will Sheppard is now 13. Xavier Henderson is 12. Lawrence Arnold is 11. So now let me talk about my 15th ranked guy, if that makes any sense at all. So now I actually do get to talk about Monterey Baldwin at Baylor. I have him as my 15th ranked wide receiver in the Big 12. He spent all 3 years of Baylor, is going into his 4th season. 2 back-to-back 600-plus yard receiving years for him. And in my opinion, he's playing with the best quarterback he's played with so far at Baylor. DeQuan Finn, the new quarterback there. He's a former MAC Player of the Year last year at Toledo, and it's going to be such a fun and exciting offense with these two together. Okay, so now my ranking should all be good and worked out now. At number 10, I have Jaylen Noel at Iowa State. Coming off a really good season for Iowa State. He's going into his 4th season in college football. Had 800 yards, 7 touchdowns last year for the Cyclones, and he was such a weapon for Rocco Beck whenever he was in trouble. He was his go-to guy. and should be again this year in 2024. At number 9, a new face in the Big 12, McAllister at TCU. He spent his first 2 seasons at Boise State. He's going into his 3rd year now in college football. Almost 900 yards last year and 5 touchdowns for the Broncos. And that was in a system where they didn't really have their main quarterback figured out. They were playing a dual quarterback system with Taylon Green, now the Arkansas Razorback starter, and Maddox Madsen, who was the better pure passer out of both of those. And McAllister just thrived in both of those situations, and it's going to be really exciting to see him in TCU. Number 8, Rashad Owens at Oklahoma State. He's going into his 5th year there and had a breakout season last year with 900 yards and 5 touchdowns. He had Alan Bowman as quarterback, and I've been talking in my recent videos kind of down on Alan Bowman. I don't mean to be that way. I don't mean to be negative about him. He is a gunslinger for sure. He threw for a lot of yards last season. It's just his IQ and management skills as far as interceptions. Had 14 interceptions last year compared to 15 touchdowns. So if he can just bring those interceptions down, he'd be a really good quarterback. And he has weapons all around him. I didn't mean to go on an Alan Bowman rant, but I've been seeing my videos and I've been talking down on him, and I shouldn't be. But Rashad Owens is such a weapon for him, deep threat as well, but he'll be really good in 2024 also. Number 7, Kobe Hudson at UCF. It feels criminal to have him this low on this list, but that's just how talented the Big 12 is at the wide receiver position. Had an amazing 2023 at UCF, 900 yards, 8 touchdowns. He spent his first 2 seasons at Auburn, and then spent his last 2 seasons at UCF. So he's going into his 5th year, like a lot of receivers, like I said on this list. He had an insane 3-game stretch at the beginning of the season where he had 130 reception yards in 3 straight games. Then kind of slowed down at the end of the season. What's funny is that the starter, John Reese Plumlee, missed 2 out of those 3 games. So Timmy McClain, the backup, came in and really did well. And Kobe Hudson loved when Timmy McClain was in the game, apparently. But this year, KJ Jefferson is the new quarterback at UCF, the former Arkansas Razorback for the past 5 years, feels like a decade. And he's a more accurate John Reese Plumlee to me. He's got a better deep ball for sure, and Kobe Hudson will be his main target. Number 6, Josh Kelly at Texas Tech. He's another guy that I forgot came to the Big 12 this offseason. He transferred from Washington State. Before that, he was at Fresno State for his first 4 seasons. So he's going to his 6th season in college football, one of the oldest wide receivers in the Big 12. And funny enough, he was at Fresno State with Kalen DeBoer and did not follow Kalen DeBoer to Washington. Instead, he went to Washington State. So he should have followed Kalen DeBoer, should have been another guy on that insane Washington wide receiver room last year with Rome Odunze and McMillan. But no, he went to Washington State and balled out, man, balled out. Almost 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns with Cam Ward at quarterback. Texas Tech does not have Cam Ward at quarterback. They have Baron Morton. But with a guy like Josh Kelly, Baron Morton will thrive. At number 5, maybe a divisive one, I don't know, Travis Hunter at Colorado. Today, I think it came out today or yesterday that he was the top-rated wide receiver in the new NCAA 25 game, and that is just crazy. It really is. He's 5th, in my opinion, in his own conference. Now, last year he did struggle with injuries, mainly because of that Colorado State game where he got hit in the chest. But he had 700 yards and 5 touchdowns in 9 games. So a lot of production for him. And we know he plays on the defensive side as well. He's an amazing defensive back. So a lot of props to him, and he is a really good wide receiver. And comes in at number 5 on my list. Number 4, LeJontay Wester at Colorado. A new face in the Big 12. He comes over from Florida Atlantic. Spent the last 4 seasons there. He's going to his 5th season in college. Last season he had 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns in 2023 with Daniel Richardson at Florida Atlantic at quarterback. And no disrespect to Daniel Richardson, but he is not Shedeur Sanders. And LeJontay Wester will be so good in that Colorado system with Shedeur Sanders. And all the weapons. I mean, I've talked about Jimmy Horn and Travis Hunter around him. And now Will Shepard. So 4 guys on this list are Colorado Buffalo. So it really should tell you something. It really should be exciting on that Colorado offense. Last season at FAU, LeJontay Wester had a 220-yard, 3-touchdown game versus UAB and Trent Dilfer. He's just that type of player. Number 3, Jaden Higgins at Iowa State. Coming off an insane year at Iowa State, almost 1,000 yards, had 6 touchdowns as well last season. And he spent his first 2 seasons at Eastern Kentucky. And then so last season was his first season at Iowa State, and he just balled out. Had a game against Memphis where he had 215 yards and 1 touchdown in that bowl game. They did lose that one though, but still, he was the biggest weapon for Rocco Becht last season. Kind of turned the season around for Iowa State when Rocco Becht started connecting with Jaden Higgins. So what a receiver, and he comes in at top 3 on my list. Number 2, Brennan Presley at Oklahoma State. 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns for him in 2023. He's going into his 5th season, and all 4 seasons have been at Oklahoma State for him. He's just a great wide receiver, and that Oklahoma State offense will be lethal again this year, especially with Ollie Gordon at running back. It'll create so many passing lanes and just leave the defensive backfield wide open because they got to stack the box so much for Ollie Gordon. Rashad Owens and Brennan Presley would just have a field day every day pretty much. But at number 1, TeDarro McMillan at Arizona. Coming off a season where he had 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns in 2023. He's one of the best players in college football, not even wide receivers, just strictly players. He's one of the best in college football. He had a game last year against Arizona State in the Territorial Cup where he had over 260 yards and a touchdown. He's going into his 3rd season, and I can't wait to watch him and Noel connect again. But yeah, guys, that is my top 15 wide receivers in the Big 12. I know I messed my list up at first, but I hope I figured it out and it makes sense to y'all. Next, I have to do the Big 10 and the ACC and the G5 wide receiver rankings. This is a fun one to do. This is a hard one to do because there's so much talent in the Big 12 at the wide receiver position. Comment what you disagree with. I'm sure there's a lot. Like, subscribe. It means so much for the channel. Follow us on TikTok, 3&Out CFB, and on Twitter, 3&Out_CFB. Appreciate y'all for watching.